Hey, hey, hey. So, it's almost been 2 weeks since I've been back, and I am finally feeling adjusted, like I'm caught up, like I'm, really ready to do the next steps. Hold on for a second. Mocha, go sit. Go. Get up there. I swear, every time I start recording, they want to walk around. And that is so distracting. I tell you, like, oh my goodness. Okay, so anyway, I've been back for just about 2 weeks and I'm finally feeling settled and, got the house cleaned, got the fridge cleaned out, and been to the grocery store. I groomed the dogs. I've been taking Evan back and forth to work. Um, actually got to sit at my desk today. And I'm going to not say got to, because I could have sat here long ago, but, just trying to get things back in order. And I just told her to sit down. Did y'all hear that? I swear I'm going to choke her. So finally got things back in order. And I feel like I'm in a good place to, begin to or resume working on my business. But it's interesting how you, at least for me, I have to have like a clean and orderly environment. I can't work in clutter and chaos like that. I mean, home for me is it being orderly is important because it's my refuge. It's where you come and you escape what's going on outside. And then as an entrepreneur, you're here. And so I'm also trying to like balance, you know, working as an entrepreneur and rest. And today's video, or not today's video, today's devotion talks about rest and how it's holy, it's not lazy. I was taking Evan to work this morning and I was asking him about his schedule for the upcoming semester and what his plans were with regard to work. He scheduled his classes while I was on the trip. And so I was finding out, the days. And then I said, well, when are you going to work, Evan? And he was like, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I said, Evan, you're not leaving room for yourself to rest. And like we have to try to shift the narrative at, an earlier age because, it's easier, I feel like, to teach a young dog new tricks, but it's harder to teach an old dog new tricks. And we just have this culture where we just go, go, go. We glorify busyness and, we think we have to be on the go all the time, never at home, just out in the streets doing what? Hanging out and socializing and networking for the sake of it? Or, I mean, why is it hard for some of us to rest? I know for myself, that was my story. At one point in time, like when we first moved into this house, I worked 3 jobs at one time. Brandy, why would you do that? And I mean, you have a husband. Why are you working all that? Well, okay, because I just, I don't know, would always kind of have something in my back pocket. I had my full time job. I worked part time at CVS, and then I had a baking business. And I had to start letting some things go. I think the baking business was the first to go because also COVID shut that down. I remember when I found out that I had COVID, I was working on a first birthday cake and my test results came back positive. I had to refund all of the money, apologize, but I'm like, I tested positive for COVID, and we didn't know this was October 2020. We didn't know, a whole lot about it in terms of, can it spread through food or surfaces or what? But I mean, come on now, somebody's been sick. You had a cold. I wouldn't want you working on my cake. So, um, yeah, that's how I kind of stopped with the baking because at that time, too, I did custom cakes, beautiful cakes. They were beautiful and they tasted good. However, because of the work schedules, I needed like 3 weeks in advance to take an order because I had to like mentally prepare and also procure items because I would do custom orders. So I was not leaving room for the unexpected. And that's where I think a lot of us go wrong in terms of burnout and stretching ourselves too thin is that we don't leave room for the unexpected. In Evan's mind, he's going to go to class Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then if his classes end early on Friday, then he's got that, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But, you're not leaving room for rest, for leisure. There are so many things. And it's very telling how the American culture is opposed to the European culture and other parts of the world. When I first got to South Africa, I noticed it immediately when I sat down in the restaurant in the hotel. It took them a while to come over to like take my order, give me some water. It just is not, we are very fast, like Jimmy John's, freaky fast. And also in Europe, specifically Spain, they shut down for a siesta, probably for like 3 hours in the middle of the afternoon. And, they prioritize rest. When I was in Belgium, it was interesting just sitting out, or maybe it was Poland, I can't remember. A lot of places in Europe, you just see people sitting out on the grass, enjoying the day. In Sweden, I saw a man just on the grass, three-piece suit, just chilling. It's like lunchtime is rest. It's not eating at your desk, it's outside, enjoying the weather, getting some sunlight. And that's a big culture shock, because we're used to immediate service and everything being fast. And it was very cool to experience. It is a lifestyle that I want to adopt, learning how to rest and step away. Earlier this week or last weekend, I sat on the couch and I kind of just couch rotted, and I binged some episodes of Game of Thrones. Um, and even then, I'll admit, I wasn't totally rested because I'm thinking in my head, oh, I should be doing this, this, and this. And so it wasn't fully restful where I just totally shut off my mind and wasn't thinking about it. I'm still thinking and making my to-do list in the back of my head. What is that? Like, why can't we shut it off? I don't know. It's something that I'm working on. I'm a work in progress. I definitely want to try to instill it in my son. You have to have some downtime. You have to leave time for the unexpected. You can't spread yourself so thin that if something happens, it just rocks your whole world because you're stretched too thin. It's we have to try to shift the narrative and do it sooner than later because tomorrow isn't promised. We're all aging and you never know. I mean, same thing with like retirement and traveling after you retire. I like to have my cake and eat it too right now. I want to be able to experience some things while I'm young. The idea of work, work, work just isn't one that sits well with me. Travel makes work, work, work a lot easier because it's a reward and you get to see the fruits of your labor while you're still young enough to experience them. So I highly encourage people to travel if they have the opportunity to, and do it solo. If your hang up is that you need people to go with you, but nobody is able to go, you got to go alone. And I kid you not, you will probably have the most amazing time. I am, I don't know that I'm so surprised anymore, but I realize when I travel solo, I meet way more people than I do if I'm traveling with Mr. or other people. I think there's just something, people see you and they come and talk to you. Now, I know some of you might be like, well, you got to be careful. Yes, you do. But you also have to be aware of your surroundings and know where you are and trust your intuition. If you feel uneasy at any point, then it's probably best to go back to your hotel or, whatever is triggering the uneasy feeling. You have to listen to yourself and just know, because it is a very different world out there. I think that we hear about a lot more negativity than we do like positivity. And I think that has conditioned us to be very like nervous for people and like they're out sex trafficking and things like this. But you also want to choose a destination that isn't, like high in crime or things like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like you have to make smart decisions, and then those choices lend themselves to being a little more free and being able to get out and just be out, because who wants to constantly, number one, travel solo and be looking over your shoulder all the time? I don't, and I haven't. But like I said in my video about Casablanca, I felt uneasy, and I was also, I think, irritated that the traffic warden tried to overcharge me and increase the price, tried to take advantage of me. And so that like bothered me. And so I just got back on the ship. But the rest of the destinations, I didn't feel that uneasiness. I didn't feel like, I'm looking over my shoulder. Even Namibia, when my taxi driver said, "Hey, I pick up kids after school. Do you mind if I pick them up?" And I was like, wait a minute, what? No, I don't mind. And we stopped at the school. I'm thinking a couple of kids are going to get in. 8 kids get in the back seat of the car. And I was just like trying not to turn around and have my camera all on them, because I wanted to be considerate. I was like, wow. So you talk about, an immersive experience. It very much was immersive, but it's knowing where you are. Namibia is a very safe country. So I was more concerned that, like, hey, dude, don't try to take advantage of me and be doing all this other stuff. But I didn't feel, unsafe. And so I just, I think we definitely need to prioritize rest. I think that as much as we can, try to turn our minds off and, just be and not be thinking about all that we have to do, because all that we have to do is going to be there. It is. And, I think that the more that we rest and can lead a balanced life, then actually it's going to lend itself to more productivity, because we are rested and we're not running on fumes and burning the candle at both ends. I think, yeah, that's what I think. Those are my thoughts on solo travel, rest, and yeah, I appreciate you for watching, and I'm gonna talk to you tomorrow or the next day. Take care.